It's springtime, and so naturally, people's thoughts are turning to marriage. Mae West, with whom I'm often compared, is fond of saying that marriage is a great institution, but I'm not sure I'm ready for an institution just yet. The question this spring, actually, though, is whether a great institution, the United States Supreme Court, is ready for marriage. You all will remember the case of Loving against Virginia, perhaps the winner of the competition for the best name ever for a Supreme Court case. In that case, Chief Justice Warren wrote for a unanimous Supreme Court that Virginia's ban on interracial marriage violated the Constitution, in part because the freedom to marry with which it interfered has long been recognized as one of the vital personal rights essential to the orderly pursuit of happiness by free men. And I'd say free women, too. So now we are waiting on tenterhooks, in a sense, to see what the Supreme Court is going to do about two marriage cases in front of it. The Hollingsworth against Perry case, which is a challenge to California's reinstitution of marriage inequality after a decision by the California Supreme Court holding that California has to allow all couples to marry. And the second case, United States against Windsor, a case in which I've been involved, which involves the constitutionality of a federal statute, the Defense of Marriage Act, which is surely a winner in the competition for the most misleading name for a federal statute ever. It will be very interesting to see what Justice Scalia, whom Nan mentioned earlier, as saying nobody could ever vote against the Voting Rights Act because it sounded so good, so that made the Voting Rights Act suspect, does about the Defense of Marriage Act, because who could vote against a defense of marriage? I'm still trying to figure out what the act is defending marriage against, and I haven't yet done that. But while we're waiting for the Supreme Court to rule, I think it's important for us to recognize something else, which is that it takes much more than a celebrated judicial decision to realize our constitutional values. Loving was the end of a sustained assault on racial discrimination, and almost all of the troops in that campaign were not Supreme Court justices. They were ordinary Americans who were extraordinary Americans. People like Robert Moses and Fannie Lou Hamer, like John Lewis and Viola Liuzzo, and like Mildred and Richard Loving. Loving didn't create change in American hearts and minds. It reflected change that was already there. Now, in the past quarter century, we've moved from the era of Bowers against Hardwick, a case in which the Chief Justice of the United States felt free to compare the sexual intimacy of gay people to murder, and not in a complimentary way, to an era in which a majority of Americans support legal recognition for gay families. We've moved in roughly a generation from a nation in which no state provided legal recognition to same-sex couples to one in which 2 in 5 Americans live in states that do. And without that change on the ground, the Supreme Court would not even be considering protections for same-sex couples. Now, how did that change occur? Well, after we were at the Supreme Court to argue United States against Windsor this year, we came down the steps of the court, and I hope for all of you who are lawyers, you get the opportunity one day to come out of the Supreme Court with your client and have hundreds of people screaming your client's name. It's an experience like no other. But when we came down the steps and we had the little press conference afterwards, somebody asked Edie Windsor at the press conference, what made the change? Why are things so different today? And what Edie said is, it's because we came out. It's because we came out. We moved, as Donald Rumsfeld would put it, from being unknown knowns, that is, the ones they don't know, to being known knowns, that is, people who know that they know gay people. And they know gay people, and they respect gay people, they value gay people, and they love gay people. Now, you all know there's an old joke about a conservative is a liberal who's just been mugged, and a liberal is a conservative who's just been arrested. Well, today's version is a supporter of marriage equality is a politician who just discovered his kid is gay. So what are we waiting for? Well, in the words of another old joke that many of you have heard, this couple, they've been married for 60 years. They go to see their lawyer and they say, we want a divorce. We've been married for 60 years. And the lawyer says to the couple, you've been married for 60 years. Well, we've never gotten along. But you've been together the whole 60 years. Yeah, but we just hate each other. So why now? And they said, well, we've been waiting for the kids to die. And I think the generational change in America shows us that in some sense we're just waiting for a generation to die or to change its minds. So there's a wonderful poem by Marge Percy that I thought about when I was asked to speak today, and it's called The Low Road. It begins by asking, what can they do to you? And initially, the answers are pretty depressing. Although alone you can fight, the message is alone you can't win. But then the poem builds, and I want to end my introductory remarks by reading you the end of the poem, because I think it captures so powerfully why we're here today. But two people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. A snake-dancing file can break a cordon. An army can meet an army. Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people, don't worry, they can't give sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four people, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration. 100 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity in your own newsletter. 10,000 power and your own paper. 100,000 your own media. 10 million your own country. It goes on one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again and they say no. It starts when you say we and know who you mean, and each day you mean one more. That building tide is what we're here to celebrate today. And now it's time to present the annual Alliance for Justice Champion of Justice Award. This year there actually are 4 champions of justice because we're honoring 4 statewide coalitions that successfully fought for equality in the 2012 elections. It's one of the great stories of electoral success in recent years. These groups from Maine, from Washington, from Minnesota, and Maryland have completely changed the national conversation about same-sex marriage, and they're moving us forward faster than we could possibly have imagined. They have an amazing story to tell, and they have lessons to share. And the Alliance is proud to celebrate their achievements today. They demonstrate a principle that's at the heart of the Alliance's Bolder Advocacy Initiative, that lasting change is possible when fearless nonprofit organizations join together with energized citizens and with courageous public officials. The fact that several more states have legalized same-sex marriage since the election, including Minnesota itself, of course, is proof of the momentum that these campaigns have provided. Our next champion of justice is Marylanders for Marriage Equality. This diverse, broad-based coalition of faith leaders, community partners, local businesses, labor, elected officials, and tens of thousands of grassroots supporters helped defend the Civil Marriage Protection Act at the ballot box. When the votes were tallied on question 6, over 1.3 million Marylanders stood up for love, for families, and for fairness. And this is what their message sounded like during the campaign.
I'm Brendan Ian Badejo, a linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens. I believe we should be doing everything that we can to make Maryland families stronger, which is why I support marriage for gay and lesbian couples who want to make a lifetime commitment to each other. People from all walks of life, including gay and lesbian couples, want their children to be in stable homes and protected under the law. Join me. It's the right thing to do.
As a pastor, my support for question 6 is rooted in my belief that the government should treat everyone equally. I would not want someone denying my rights based upon their religious views. Therefore, I should not deny others based upon mine. It's about fairness. This law does not force any church to perform a same-sex marriage if it's against their beliefs. And that's what this is about, protecting religious freedom and protecting all Marylanders equally under the law. Join me in voting for Question 6.
To introduce the Maryland Coalition, we're privileged today to have with us two of Maryland's most important leaders, Congresswoman Donna Edwards and Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown. Their passionate voices as spirited defenders of marriage equality helped turn the tide in this very hard-fought campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, to get us started, please welcome Lieutenant Governor Anthony Brown. And as he comes to the stage, I just want to mention one thing about him that's in your program that I think is important, given, I think, the role and the power that arguments about fairness and marriage equality have had with respect to veterans, that he's the highest-ranking elected official in the nation actually to have served a tour of duty in Iraq. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, and good afternoon. What an honor it is to be able to participate in today's program. And as I look out, I see a few hundred champions. And I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do day in and day out on behalf of equality. And again, it's a real pleasure to be part of the Champions of Justice Award. I do want to thank Congresswoman Edwards, who you will see, I think, shortly. She's participating in a few votes right now on the Hill. She is, in fact, my member of Congress, and we're really proud of the work that she does, from fighting for local nonprofits that do so much good in our communities, her lifelong commitment to tackling the challenge, the public safety and public health challenges presented by domestic violence that affect far too many of our families in communities throughout our country, to advocating for equal pay and equal treatment for women in the workforce and for women's health. Donna has been a real fighter, a progressive voice, and a very valuable member of the Maryland congressional delegation. I'd also like to thank Nan Aaron. Thank you very much for your leadership, and I want to thank the Alliance for Justice for all the work that you do, for your commitment to our values and to promoting our progressive agenda. I also want to thank you for your belief, your commitment, and your day-to-day putting into action the belief that an equitable, just, and free society isn't just possible, but it's necessary. So thank you very much. We're here today to celebrate leaders in a number of states, in Maine, Minnesota, Washington State, and in Maryland, who stepped up and made marriage equality a reality. But we're also here to commit ourselves to something bigger, which is justice now for all Americans, and as I return up New York Avenue to ensure that we continue that fight on behalf of all Marylanders. In Maryland, we've had a tremendous number of successes in fighting for progress and justice over the past few years. We became the first state in the country to legalize marriage equality at the ballot box. And the first state only because our polls closed a little bit earlier than they did in the state of Maine. But I also want to take this opportunity to thank Senators Alan Kittleman and Rick Madaleno, both of whom are here, that demonstrate that Republicans and Democrats can work together for social progress. So I want to thank both of you for your efforts to pass this law in Maryland. And also want to recognize my young, bright, and handsome Jackson, who is Rich's son. And it's great to see you. You're growing up fast, young man. And, you know, I think I can speak on behalf of Rich and Alan that when the law was petitioned to referendum, we were initially disappointed and maybe even for some a little discouraged. But I think it was really a blessing in disguise, because while it was a spirited debate in the General Assembly where members had an opportunity to speak about fairness and equality and doing the right thing and supporting families and creating environments where children can grow up in loving homes regardless of who their parents are and who their parents love. It was so important that we took this issue, this debate, this conversation to the people of Maryland, because we like to think, just as you have in your states, that we are accelerating the progress, accelerating the effort, increasing the momentum, where one day in the not too distant future, in not just 90 million families will be able to say they live in a state that recognizes marriage equality, but that every family in these United States will be able to do the same. So I think that our debate has contributed, and certainly the results in Maryland have contributed to that effort. We've done a number of things in Maryland over the years in promotion of a social agenda, an agenda where we value decency and respect and fairness. This year we ended capital punishment as a system in Maryland. It's proven to be ineffective, it's unfair, it's racially biased, and now it's history. We passed some of the nation's toughest, most stringent gun safety laws, and we remain committed to ensuring that all of our children, whether your family is in this country for generations, or whether you're a new American without documentation, you will have the opportunity to get an education in the state of Maryland because we passed the Maryland Dream Act. Our success was made possible because of the people in this room. You're the ones who are on the front lines doing what needs to be done. But the truth is, while we've accomplished so much together in our respective states, the work continues in our states and throughout the country. As we look to the future, we know that in Maryland, we need to build a better Maryland for more Marylanders, a better Maryland that starts with the work you're doing each and every day. And it includes addressing the persistent gaps and disparities that still exist in our economy and our communities. We do our best when we're working together with our eyes focused on the future, a future where we create more opportunities for more. And we're at our best when we take care of one another and when we use the tools of government to protect our neighbors and expand opportunities. I believe that throughout Maryland, throughout America, each of us is strengthened when all of us have an opportunity, an equal opportunity to succeed. And that begins in our homes, in our families, and into our community. We will all suffer as a community if any member of our community is left behind. So it's in that spirit that I'd like to introduce Carrie Evans. She is Executive Director of Equality Maryland. I think almost everyone in this room is familiar with her incredible work that she has done for equality in our state. But the award she's accepting isn't just for Equality Maryland. It's for Marylanders for Marriage Equality, a coalition of men and women who stood up and said that in Maryland we treat everyone fairly, decently, and with respect. So Carrie, thank you for all that you've done for Maryland, and congratulations to you and everyone who worked so hard to make marriage equality the law of Maryland. Thank you. Oh, come on up. Yep.
I have an entourage. Jackson's going to hold it for us. That's your official job.
It's all about family.
I love having this official entourage. Will you guys come with me everywhere? This would be quite. We got your back, Carrie. Well, thank you, Lieutenant Governor, who himself is a champion of justice on many issues, and we're proud to have him in our state, along with a whole bunch of other really progressive elected officials who stood by us in the long fight. So thank you for introducing us today. And thank you to AFJ for recognizing and honoring the work of all of our campaigns. Each one of us accepting these awards are representing the thousands of people who brought us our wins on November 6th, and we honor them today as well. On the night of November 6th, actually like Washington, the early morning of November 7th, if you saw footage of our victory in Maryland, you saw a whole bunch of people crammed onto a stage just like this in Baltimore. There were hundreds of people who, though, were not literally on the stage with us that night. They were there in spirit, who had earned their place on that stage. And all of us know who work for social change, the stage of people took years to build. We started in 2003 with the ACLU of Maryland, looking for just the right plaintiffs to file a suit against the county clerk. We ended up with 19 gay and lesbian individuals who became the public face of marriage equality in Maryland. People who put their lives on display so that we could ask the courts for our equality. We celebrated with them in 2006 when the Circuit Court in Baltimore ruled in favor of marriage equality, and cried with them in 2007 when our High Court reversed that decision and said we are not entitled to marriage. Many of these plaintiffs continued their work with us long after the court case, and we are forever grateful for those brave people. And then we picked ourselves up and took our fight to the legislature in 2008. And this process brought us more people who could stand on the stage with us on November 6th. We had our first Senate sponsor, Senator Gwendolyn Britt, who brought her years of fighting for African American civil rights to our fight. Senator Britt died unexpectedly days before the 2008 session began, but her presence is always with us, and I know she was on the stage on the night of November 6th with us. We had the formidable Senator Rich Madaleno, who is one of Maryland's openly LGBT legislators, had the hopes and dreams of the entire community on his shoulder. And not once did he flinch or give up. Senator Madaleno knew his task was large and worked diligently to chip away and help us get to the 24 votes we needed in the Senate. He consistently invoked his own life with his husband Mark and their beautiful kids, Katie and Jackson, and made it personal. His colleagues weren't just voting on marriage equality. They were voting on whether Rich and his family deserved the same as themselves. One of the senators that heeded the call to action was Senator Alan Kittleman. The only Republican in the Maryland Senate who voted for and vocally supported marriage equality. Rich just asked why Republicans always get such a big hand. Because his support did not come without a tremendous cost to him politically, but he still stuck with us, and it didn't deter him. He worked with us not only during the legislative session, but during the campaign to lend a Republican voice to the course of support brewing across Maryland. I am delighted that he has joined us today to help us accept this award. Senator Kittleman's support, I believe, allowed for more Republicans to come forward claiming marriage equality as a Republican value. Delegates Bob Costa and Wade Ketch, the two House Republicans who voted with us, both were guided by Senator Kittleman and his courage. And then the floodgates opened, with gay Maryland Republicans heeding the call and helping us win in Republican precincts people said we could never win. People like Walter Olson, who is with us today. Out there in Frederick County, leading a gay Republican life, he formed a PAC so that Republicans, both gay and straight, who supported marriage equality, could contribute to show their unique contribution to our efforts. He reached out to people like David and Danielle Frum to get involved and show their support. All of these equality-supporting Republicans were with us on that stage that night. And then we had the incredible support of African American leaders, all across the state and country behind us on question 6. People like the Lieutenant Governor, people like Julian Bond, Reverend Coates, who you saw on the video, his counterpart, Reverend Hickman, President Obama, and of course the NAACP, led by Ben Jealous, who formally endorsed marriage equality in the middle of our campaigns. Make no mistake, without the support of all of these people and organizations in the African American community, we would not have won on November 6th. We also had the Energizer Bunnies that comprised the board and members of the over 200 organizations of the coalition. These folks were relentless in their support and their fundraising. And I'm so happy to have one of Equality Maryland's board members with us today, Tim Williams, who's capturing the moment, who lives in a very rural county in Maryland, Anne Arundel, and worked at his polling place from 6 in the morning till 8 at night, making sure that every voter who came in there knew why they should vote for question 6. We won Anne Arundel County, and I think it's in no small part because of Tim Williams. And then we had this other guy. You may have heard of him. He used to live in Baltimore. His name is Martin O'Malley. And, and boy, did this guy work his ass off to be on that stage. There was nothing the governor would not do to help secure marriage equality for our beautiful state. Whether that was going to secretly talk to a potential vote at 12:30 in the morning or getting on the phone for another hour of fundraising, he was on fire. His determination and apparent ability to survive without sleep kept us all going even on the most difficult days. So thank you, Governor. And then we had our 3 organizations that, along with Equality Maryland, served on the board of the campaign: SEIU, ACLU of Maryland, and the Human Rights Campaign. And what a team we were. The support of labor and its members was awe-inspiring. It never fails to amaze me the power of unions to take care of business and get things done. And the ACLU of Maryland, our roommates from the beginning, really just the best group of people to be in the trenches with. I do want to single out the Human Rights Campaign, though, for one moment. As some of you know, the national LGBT funders pulled out of Maryland in 2011. They didn't think we should or could pass a marriage equality bill. As you can imagine, that was devastating on several levels. But guess who stayed? Yes, HRC stayed. Not only did they stay, they doubled down. They did not have one moment of doubt that we should and could win marriage equality in Maryland. And without HRC, we could not have won. And that is not an overstatement. So to Marty Rouse and our friends at HRC, thank you for always believing. And so that, my friends, in a few minutes is how we built our winning stage in Maryland and how we are all together here accepting this award from Alliance for Justice, and we thank you.